Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chase and this is All Things Rim. Today we are going over my current dive watch collection. Now, why am I going over my current dive watch collection? Well, I thought it's 2021. I'd like to sort of show you guys what I have from low end to high end for my dive watches, and it's gonna be up to you guys to choose which dive watch or which two dive watches I take out on my sort of scuba diving adventure. I'm gonna be testing out some dive equipment this upcoming weekend, and I'd really like you guys to tell me what watches you guys would like to see featured on that video. Now, the first watch in this collection is it's gonna go from cheapest to most expensive. Now, the last two watches are gonna be sort of, well, reasonably priced, like comparable to each other. So the way that they really are in the list doesn't necessarily mean one is more expensive than the other one, but I am gonna start at the cheapest one, and that is gonna be my Generation 1 Exciton by JF Watches, or I Like Watches. Now, this is one of my favorite watches. Right now, it is on a shark mesh strap from Strapsco, and honestly, Strapsco is one of the best strap company that I have ever dealt with. Honestly, I even have an affiliate link down below. If you guys are interested in straps, go to that affiliate link. It really does help out the channel, and it doesn't cost you guys a dime more. Well, basically, this is one of my favorite watches at 38 millimeters. It has a Miyota 9000 movement in it. I believe it's a Miyota 9015 movement. Beautiful watch. They really did design this watch extremely well. 200 meters, again, 38 millimeters. So it fits on every wrist that is moderate to average size, including the smaller end. Now, if you're a guy who is a larger gentleman who just has a giant wrist, this probably isn't the watch for you. But if you have a wrist like mine, 7¼ inch wrist, 38 is a sweet spot when it comes to sizes. So that's gonna be number one. This thing was offered only to channel members. The ability to go and purchase the watch at cost, basically. This was 200 bucks. They did have an Exciton 2 Kickstarter where they offered their own strap and everything else. Honestly, I can't say enough about this watch. Awesome watch. Now, the next one on the list is gonna be the Taxar from PD Watchworks in collaboration with Rico's Watches podcast. Now, honestly, this thing is one of the coolest tactical watches I've ever had my hands on. It uses a Cerakote finish, and it's like a titanium gray. So it's just, you know, when I say tactical, I mean it's more tactic cool. And it has this tequila sunrise orange on it, and honestly, I can't say enough about this watch. They really did design this watch to be not only functional with its 200 meters of water resistance, but also when it comes to things like the forged carbon fiber dial, they really did put a lot of energy and a lot of designing into this watch, not only to make it functional, but also to make it cool. This thing sits at about 45 millimeters on the wrist, but the footprint on this is extremely small. We're talking 44 millimeters of a footprint on the wrist of the lug to lug. So with that, doesn't sit on the wrist very big, even though this is technically a larger diameter watch. But honestly, it's really hard to beat the cushion style case on this. Most comfortable watch I've ever worn, almost ever. Now, that thing is a special thing that you can get on actual PD Watchworks, their website. I'll leave a link down below. No way do I have an affiliate link to that. But what they do is they do special runs of their watches. Basically, right now, they do a special run of 15 watches. So once 15 people sign up, buy the watch, it's just under $600. Then what happens is they go ahead and place an order for the parts. They get the parts in, and one single person assembles and does spot checks on the quality of those watches. And not only do they assemble this by hand with one single person, but then they actually calibrate the accuracy of this watch, the NH35, which nobody ever really does, in 5 different positions. So that's really cool too. Now, the next on the list is going to be one of the biggest watches I own, and that's gonna be the Tissot Sea Star. Now, this chronograph, I've had for at least 9 years, I would say. So I got this in the first year of my relationship with my wife. And honestly, I even wore this thing on my wedding day. It's very big at 47, 48 millimeters. Really depends on where you measure it from. But if you look at the thickness of this thing, it is absolutely a gigantic beast. It does wear a little large on the wrist, but it is cool that it has a helium escape valve. 300 meters of water resistance. Honestly, it has a ETA movement. This is the first of the Swiss watches in my watch collection. Honestly, I love this watch, but it does need to be repaired. It does have an issue with the crown stem is broken. The entire thing has shifted slightly by, I would say, 1 second degree on the inside. So it really does just need to be repaired, but it takes money and time, and I don't wear this thing enough now to justify the money or the time to put into it. One of the things that this does have is an old school press clasp that you'll see on my next watch that I like, I hate. Honestly, once you get something like a glide lock clasp, it's really hard to go back to anything but the micro adjustment on the fly. That's gonna be number 3. So this is out of the selection. Can't wear this, doesn't really work, but it's still a dive watch in my collection. It just needs to be repaired. Now the next one on the list, now we're going high end. Now this next watch is a 2006, 2007, I really have to look at the reference number. It's I believe a D serial number on the reference number. This is gonna be the Rolex Kermit 50th anniversary. Just an absolute gorgeous watch. Inside is a caliber 3135, so it does have the date with the 2.5 times magnification on the Cyclops. Honestly, the reason why I like this is because it's just different. Now it does have that pressed style clasp that I just do not like, because when you're outside in the heat and then you get in the water and your wrist sort of swells and then doesn't swell anymore, honestly, this thing becomes a little loose on the wrist, kind of comes down to my hand, and I just do not like that. I like a watch that fits well, and this can fit well in the right environment. Honestly, this is a sleeper watch, and I can't believe how much it's gone up in value, honestly. One of my favorite watches, I'll never get rid of it. Honestly, this thing is gonna stay in my collection because I could never afford another one. I got this at cost at an authorized dealer back in the day. Now the last and final one in the collection is gonna be the Rolex Hulk. I got this in 2011, 2012 when I came back from deployment. Now I had a lot of money at the time and I was in my first marriage, so basically I was able to afford it. Now this watch, again, has gone up in value. However, I paid cost for this. And honestly, what I did to this is this has a Strapsco strap on it. Again, Strapsco, honestly, value for price, very high-end stuff. And it has something called AK Inlinks on the side, so everything sort of goes seamlessly into the watch. It does have the classic glide lock clasp on the back, so I can do micro adjustments on the fly. Previous watch is 40 millimeters. This is 40 millimeters. The only difference between this one and this one is the 40 millimeters is slightly different. They both have the maxi dial. This has the standard case before the super case, so the lugs are slightly thinner. These are slightly bulkier. Still the same size technically, but this wears a little larger on the wrist. Honestly, the only reason it's not back on the bracelet is because I don't want to scratch the case after putting this on. This is like really friction locked on, and I just don't want to get a tool in there and scratch the case. So once I put this on, in my mind I was like, that's it, I'm not gonna take it back off, and there's no reason to. One of my favorite watches, this thing just screams green. I mean, that's why it's called the Hulk, and honestly I just love this thing. Now honestly, when I first got this, I wasn't sure how I'd feel, especially when I get this. So this one, the bezel has faded over time and it will continue to fade over time. This one has a ceramic bezel insert with the platinum markers around it, and this thing still looks brand new, and this thing looks like it's getting old with age. So it sort of depends on what you want. Honestly, this is becoming my favorite watch over this one. Still not gonna get rid of this one because I'll never be able to afford another one, because guess what? Can't find them at cost anywhere like 10 years ago. So those are my 5 dive watches in my collection. I'm a huge proponent of dive watches. I love dive watches. It doesn't matter if it's low end, it doesn't matter if it's high end. I think dive watches are the perfect all-around watch. They're extremely tough, extremely durable, and if you find the right one, sort of like the Exciton, well, you're looking at 200 bucks. You can change the strap on a watch. Don't ever be afraid to change the strap on a watch. It completely changes the character of the watch itself. If I put a leather strap on this, well, guess what? It's gonna dress down a little bit. If I put a solid stainless steel, non-shark mesh strap on this, it's gonna dress it up a little bit more. So don't ever be afraid to change a strap on a watch. And honestly, I think that, like I said, durability-wise, all of these have at least 200 meters of water resistance. The last three have 300 meters of water resistance. And honestly, that's why I'd always recommend a dive watch if you're gonna buy an automatic as your first watch, because it's going to be a great everyday wear. It just depends on the watch, honestly. If you're looking at something like this is not going to be an everyday watch, right? Especially if you have smaller wrists. This thing is going to wear so large. And honestly, like, I think when I was wearing this watch, my bicep on my left hand, on my left arm, got bigger just from wearing it. This thing is so heavy, it is ridiculous. One day I'll get a scale. I was looking at Walmart today at scales, like 30 bucks to measure my food. And I was like, well, I'm no drug dealer. I'm not making any money off the scale. Like, why am I spending 30 bucks on a scale? That's ridiculous. So I still don't have one. So I don't know how much this weighs. I'm not even willing to look it up. It just is so heavy, it's like a weight on your wrist. Now, if you like videos like this, hit that subscribe button. Now, what you guys need to do is choose what watch or what two watches you guys want to see in that dive video coming up. Leave a comment down below of what you guys would like to see on the wrist, under the water, in its natural environment. Now, I have a lot of videos coming up in the future, basically a video every 2 to 3 days. So make sure you guys are hitting that notification bell so you can be notified when I drop that next video. Until next time.